Yeah, what's up? What's up? What's up? This is Marcello Currents, disciple Marcello Currents, War Pony. Back at it, man. This is the first day of the 3 day fast. I'm on another fast. Back at it, man. Told you, man. I'm a spiritual war horse. We ain't playing no games, man. See, at a job, if you're young, you might not hit this term because I don't know. Maybe they done with that term, but back in my day, that's how you know I'm getting old. And it's okay to get old. You know what I'm saying? It's okay. It's how you age. You age gracefully. You know. So back when I was working, you had the you had the workhorse at the job. The workhorse wasn't the teacher's pet, but they were close to the boss because not because they was kissing butt, but because they um, was outworked everybody. See, in God's kingdom, those who outwork everybody, that's who God is close to. I don't care. Listen, I know you all want to be in certain lanes. But just like at a job site, the workhorse is listen, that the workhorse outworks everybody. The workhorse outworks everybody. And if you're real with yourself, when you see the workhorse in action, you ain't got nothing to say. Cause you know you ain't finna do all that. You know you ain't finna do, and you don't even know how to do it if you wanted to. This person does it all, right? It's the same thing on God's side, man. When you see how we fast and you see, listen, you ain't finna do that. So you shouldn't even be trying to act like me and you should have the same privileges and all of that. And you know, and you know, and you don't like the favor that you see that I have, but you don't see the workhorse that I am. You ain't finna do all this fasting. You ain't finna do it. Okay, so that explains why I'm the spiritual workhorse. Just in case I'm the spiritual war pony, I'm war pony. But it means I'm the spiritual warfare horse. I'm the spiritual workhorse. I'm the one that will fast when nobody else don't want to fast. I'll fast on the weekends when everybody else want to hang out on the weekend. You know what I'm saying? I don't even look at weekends the same anymore. See, you know you're a real Christian when you stop looking at the weekends like a party. The weekend ain't no party. Ain't no day of the week a party. That's how you know you're growing because you're outgrowing this carnal American mentality. Like the weekend is the party. Half you Christians, you still think the weekend a party, don't you? Now keep it 100. I know the struggle is real. You still think the weekend is a party, don't you? Low key, don't you? Low key a little bit. Low key a little bit. You wondering about what other people doing and everything. You trying to compare what you doing on the weekend with other people. Listen, man, listen. You a Christian. You shouldn't even be worried about the weekend, and the weekend don't mean the same thing to you. I'm not saying be boring. I'm not saying don't do nothing. But see, some people don't really live this, man. That's what I'm saying. Let's like I'm glad that America is now understanding what it is to be a Christian. Because everybody can say it. Everybody got people in their family that's Christians that you can point to. I'm pretty sure you do, but they not doing what I'm doing, are they? Come on, let's be real. Come on, let's be real. They not revealing information that I'm revealing, aren't they? They're not doing that, are they? That's what I'm saying. The proof is in the pudding, buddy. You know, you don't have a lot of Christians that's revealing nothing. They ain't revealing nothing. They ain't seeking the Lord. They're not a workhorse that God can depend on to fight these spiritual wars in the earth realm. That God can't depend on them to do nothing. But they think they got the luxury of being talking about they a chosen one and they on the same lane and levels that everybody else is on. They insinuate it. They might as well say it. They insinuate it. You're not. You listen, man. You ain't finna do this. You ain't finna do this, and you ain't finna tell the truth about these black folks. You ain't finna tell the truth about these white folks. If you do the spiritual work, the fasting, you ain't gonna listen. You ain't gonna do the teaching, the preaching that you need to do. You ain't gonna tell the truth about these black folks, these Hispanic and Latinos that you scared of. You ain't gonna tell the truth about these minorities. You ain't gonna tell the truth about the government. You ain't gonna tell the truth about them marrying children. You ain't gonna tell the truth. So you cannot be depended on as a spiritual workhorse because you ain't gonna put in the work that needs to be done. You know what kind of work you're gonna put in? The work that you want to do. the word that you want to talk about. You want to make videos about what cool little niche stuff the Christian community want to talk about. Meanwhile, they marrying children in 45 states. See the workhorse gonna get that done. The workhorse gonna get that done, buddy. Now, what I'm gonna talk about, I feel fired up to talk about, is if we as African Americans, as black people in America, if we had come tribed ourselves off as tribes, we would have had more harmony and more unison as a community. If we had sectioned ourselves off as tribes in America, I got to take my time with this, so I need you to take your time listening. Take your time listening, because I got to take my time on this. If we didn't section ourselves off as tribes, if we had done that, we would have had more organization and more unity and more happiness, and we would have been more powerful in America. See, the problem was you had no teachers that felt the need to talk about you knowing exactly what African tribe you come from. And you know why? Because we was too busy trying to wash off the African to get into the American culture. Ooh, that's it right there. No, you don't need to put on those loud colors. That look too African. Don't put on no yellow. Don't put on no orange. Don't put on those. No, you look too busy. You too loud. And what we was doing as Africans was the more time went by as we stayed here in America, we was constantly trying to wash off the African. Oh, I ain't hit it on the head. And some of y'all was trying to look like white women or Latino or Hispanic women on the West Coast. Oh, come on. Let's tell the truth. That's why all those rappers was wearing perms in their hair. You know why? Because they was around a whole bunch of Mexicans. Oh, ooh, ouch, ouch, ouch. You ain't never think about that. Why did black people why black dudes on the West Coast wear them perms all the time? Because they were around Mexicans with straight hair. You didn't think about that. You didn't. I'm talking about the present. I'm talking about the 90s. I ain't talking about back in the 70s with the blowouts and all of that and the perms and all of that back then. Think about what I'm saying. You don't think the Mexicans in California influenced them to straighten their hair, wear perms and stuff, and they look like Mexican gangsters with the perms, ponytails, and everything. And then we follow behind them, right? No, it's food for thought. It's just something to think about. We were too busy perming our hair, blonding our hair, doing all these different things to our hair. We were so busy doing all of this, right? We were so busy doing all of this, right? We were washing away the African. No, I'm going back to the origins and showing you how it happened. Because this is what made you less interested in finding out your tribe and where you came from. This is what made you less interested in it. Because the deeper you went into the Michael Jackson era, the Prince era, and all these rappers era, You didn't feel any need to identify as African. You wanted to identify as a misunderstood black guy. You hear that? You wanted to be misunderstood. You wanted to be the misunderstood black guy. No, some people pride themselves on it. I'm misunderstood. Instead of saying, you know what? How I'm being treated by these white folks and how I'm being treated by America, I'm gonna leave that car parked right there, and y'all can do whatever y'all want to do with that car. I'm gonna leave it parked right there, and guess what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna get out and walk in the opposite direction, and I'm gonna go find my African identity. I'm gonna go find out who I really am. You know, you didn't do that. You didn't try to do that. You went further and further into with women looking like white women, trying to appear as blondes, and you know you're not a blonde. Trying to appear as a redhead, and you know you're not a redhead. Okay, you might have a little bit of Irish in you, but you're not a redhead. But then these are the first people that stand in line and say they not trying to be white, or they with white people. They with black people. But so then why are you? Then let's be real. This conversation's come up before. I'm pretty sure you heard this conversation. So then why do you feel the need to? If white women don't have it all and y'all got it all, then why y'all taking from white women? Y'all got contacts like white women. Y'all got blonde hair like white women. Think about what I'm saying. But yeah, you the first in line to talk about white people take everything from black people. They want to be like y'all. Then I think it's a mutual. I think it's mutual. What I think is you want me to tell you? I'm gonna be on. I'm gonna be on everybody's side. This is how I'm gonna be on everybody's side. But I'm gonna set down to certain people that's talking about they pro black, but then you see them with blonde hair. Okay, we're gonna sit them down, right? If they saying that, if they saying that white people, black people got everything and no other women got nothing, we gonna sit them down. Now, if you ain't saying that, when you don't gotta sit down. See, what I think is, particularly with women, I told you I gotta take my time. With particularly women, you take from each other. Didn't I sum it up? White women take from black women take from white women. Well, Latino women, black women take from Latino women with the hairline, that swirl in the hairlines. Well, Latino women be doing that. I mean, black women kind of do it, yeah. Back in the day, a little bit. But let's be 100. Let's just keep it 100. The Latino women have mastered, the Hispanic and Latino women have mastered the baby hair and all that. You know what I'm talking about now? Getting that baby hair all, you know what I'm saying, all swirled up and everything. And then black chicks start doing that. Low key, lately, right? And no one wants to say that really was kind of like a Mexican thing that the Mexican women did. So, and then we know Hispanic and Latinos, they take from hip hop culture. We know that, okay? What I feel is that women take from each other. All women, because women they look around at other women more than men look around at other men from different races. And women look around at other women and then they say, well, that'll look nice on me and that'll look good on me and this'll look good and I can look good like that and I'll look good and I can do this and I can do that. I can wear this, I can wear that, right? So that's how women think here in America. So they take from each other. And I give room for that. Right? We give room for that. But you can't contradict yourself. You can't be taken from white women and then talking about I'm pro-black. Everybody want to be like us as black people. Everybody want to look like us, but you trying to look like a white woman. Now that's the person we got to sit down. I mean, where you're doing too much. You're taking from white women, then you talking about they want to be like you. Come on, man. Listen, that's why your vibration is off. You know why your vibration is off? You kind of confused about things. You contradicting yourself. See, when you contradict yourself, your vibration is gonna be off. I'm gonna say that again. When you contradict yourself, your vibration is gonna be off. There ain't no, cause see, it's like a river, right? It's like a river. Your vibration is like a river. It should be like a river, right? A river is always constantly going. A lake doesn't go. A river does, right? So your vibration should be progressive, like a river, right? When you contradict yourself, how is it flowing in the same direction? You didn't expect that, did you? When you contradict yourself, your vibration doesn't flow in the right direction, in the same direction. So you constantly making it go this way and that way. You know what you create when you do that? A whirlpool. You create a whirlpool, don't you? When you're going back and forth. You see what I mean, don't you? See, you gotta flow one way or the other. Even as being a Christian, you can't be all in the world and then talking about you a Christian. You know, your water, listen, your water creates whirlpools and you get sucked in. You go down. That's what happens. See, in the whirlpool, you go down. You don't keep going forward or backwards. You stop right there and you go down. Right? That's what happened to you. You can't have a vibration that does not go in one direction. So I'm saying all this to say this. If you gonna take from other people and other women, and you a black woman, do not stand and say and insinuate that everybody want to be like us and we are this and we are that, but we see you clearly taken from white European women. And you can say it's for art, you can say it's for style, but however you want to dress it up and jazz it up, how you feel, right? The bottom line is the women who have this naturally blonde hair or red hair or mouse brown hair is white women. They got mouse brown hair naturally, right? And see, the truth is we have to realize every race of people have something to offer each other. That's the problem in the humanity, is where people act like a whole race of people are useless. This is the problem we have. There is no race of people that is useless. Absolutely no way you can use them or utilize them or that they could be helpful to our community. There's no people like that, right? Everyone can be an asset, okay? But why I'm saying this is because you have certain black people that act like black is everything and we don't need nobody else. And you step on everybody else, but then at the same time, you got your hair blonde. I mean, check them out. And you check it, and maybe you don't know because you just caught up in culture, and you don't realize that white women started. White women gave other women that idea. Let's put it like that. White women gave other women the idea of blonde hair. You didn't think about this on your own. It wasn't an original thought. It came from looking at the hair of white women. And there's nothing wrong with that. All I'm saying is don't contradict yourself talking about black is everything when you take it from white women. That's all I'm saying. Now, we felt no need in the middle of trying to look like other races, trying to look like other people. We felt no need to identify as African. That became lost in the middle of looking like white women and looking like other women. Thinking about who we are and what tribe we are from as Africans got lost altogether, right? It was totally lost. That happened. And so, with that being said, many people felt no need to know exactly what tribe they come from. So I'm showing you how it started. That's the whole purpose of this information that I just told you. I'm showing you how you started going in this direction where it did not matter what tribe you come from. You didn't care about it. You got lost in the American experience, I guess you could say. You got lost in the American experience. And in that American experience, the only thing that you was focused on was becoming more like an American. What does that mean? Well, the model for American is the white woman and the white man. For the black man, he wanted to become like the white man with money. This and that and that and living where he lived. Unlike the Native American man, you wanted to live where the white man lived. See, the Native American man decided he didn't want nothing to do with America after all that had been done to him. The Native American man didn't want to live in the white neighborhoods. He could have. He could have got his money together. He could have worked hard and started living. You ever thought about that? They are not captive to live in the Native American reservation. They don't have to live in the Native American on the Native American reservation. They can go and get money and work hard and start businesses and everything and live right next door to the white man. You ever wonder why they didn't do it? They did not go in the direction of America. The Native American man, why I respect him so much, and I think his path is almost flawless even to this day. The Native American man never hurt his own people. He never killed his own people like we did as black people. No, I'm just being real. He never hurt anybody. The Native American man is still, after all, the most innocent man in America, even until this day. Even until this day. He did not want to go live where the white man lived. He did not want to follow the white American dream. He felt no need to chase the American dream like everyone else. And guess what? Now, ironically, even though he has had no true experience living with the Americans, he is the most respected ethnicity in America. The Native American man. Even I respect him because he decided, I'm not going that way with the Americans. I'll stay right over here at the reservation and I'll live here. I have my money. I have my casinos. They gave them casinos. And I'm going to tell you what I think about that. But he decided, I'm just stay over here. The casinos, I believe, were given specifically to strip the Native American man of his tribal nature, his primal indigenous nature, with all this glitz of casinos and all of this chasing of money. Now the Native American man becomes superficial when he was one of the most naturally spiritually inclined ethnicities. I think that the casinos was specifically given to him to strip him of his spiritual nature. Think about it. This, after all, these casinos were given to the Native Americans back in a time where we still couldn't trust the white man's mischievous ways, his mischievous elf-like ways, like a mischievous elf doing things with other reasons, for other reasons. We don't know why he really gave the Native Americans the money spots, the casinos. Think about it. All of a sudden he want the Native American man to have money. Think about that. He ain't want nobody to have money. See, what I think is that he used. I listen. Maybe I'm the first person that thought about this, but it's really something to think about. I think the Americans helped the Native Americans get casinos. Everyone knows that and knows history. To strip him of his indigenous spiritual ways, to make him more carnal and worldly and American, to make him like part of the time so he'll come over there with them and work for them. But why I respect the Native American man is he decided to just stay to himself and stay away from the Americans. And now he's most respected. The African American felt the need to go live where the white Americans live. Not neighborhoods for himself. If he had been focused on neighborhoods for himself, he would have already had prominent neighborhoods for himself. He just decided to give up the whole vision of having neighborhoods for himself and just decided to trade that off and go live with the white man. Because he probably felt that if it was good for him, it's good for me. Because there was always this thing back and forth with the white man thinking he better than the black man. So if I can go over there and live where he lived, that must be the best. That must be the best that America has to offer. If I could just get over there where that white man live at, I'm doing it now. Oh yeah, that's where the white people live at. That's how we talk. You know that. Well, they live in a white neighborhood. That's what we call in the South. In the South, yeah, you live in a white they live in a white neighborhood. They doing good. They doing good because they live over there in this white neighborhood, girl. And you know what happened? The white man despised you because you kept following him. He wanted you to stop following him, and you kept following him, and that's why he got more respect for the Native American man, because the Native American man stopped following him. Every time the white man looked back, you were still behind him trying to live where he lived at. This is why he still holds animosity towards you. If you do not know, as African Americans, I can explain it to you with real competent intelligence. You destroyed his dream of an all-white America. You destroyed his dream of an all-white America by fighting him, getting laws, and fighting for rights, and living in his neighborhoods. Now, I'm not saying you was wrong for fighting for rights. I mean, because you are here. But just everywhere he went, he couldn't get away from you because you were starting to live where he lived, and this kept happening more and more and more. If you wasn't living where he was living, you was fighting in the government. You was still where he was at, where he was working. If he didn't find you in his neighborhood, he found you at where he worked at. So if you wasn't in his suburban neighborhood and he worked for the government, he would find you in the government, fighting the government. He couldn't get away from you. And this is why he despised us the most, because we destroyed his plan for all white America. You think he wanted America for you and him to be together? You think he wanted an America where, yeah, the black people, we gonna do something good for them over there. He never wanted you here after slavery. After slavery, he no longer wanted you here. You think he wanted you here after slavery? If he could have sent you back, he would have did it. So every time he see you on TV and he see your culture, he's reminded that this could have all been his. Now, for you to be totally persuaded of this, I got to take you back. When America wasn't so embarked on, where you could just look and you could see all this land and there was no buildings, there was no neighborhoods. The white Americans just stood on these higher places and plateaus and mountaintops, and they seen all of America in its splendor, in its natural splendor. And they thought, oh, this is going to be such a beautiful land, baby. You know, he got his woman too. He might not say baby, he might say honey, or I don't know what else he'll say, but Daisy or something. My Daisy, this is gonna be all of ours. Look at this land. Oh, it's so beautiful, Al. It's so beautiful. It is, honey. It's beautiful. It's beautiful, Daisy. And then you came and you fought for rights. Now look at it. Now you see what I'm saying? And then you wanted to live where he wanted to live. Then you over there too. Now you see what I'm saying? Now remind you, the whole time he don't want you there. The whole time he feels some type of way every time he see you. Now you in his neighborhoods, you working in his neighborhoods and everything. Now he don't even feel like he got a clean sandwich because you serving him. Now he don't even feel like he's eating that where he used to eat at because now you serving him his food. No, you got to know how people think. You have to know how people think. You have to know how your enemies think. Sun Tzu taught in The Art of War, if I know myself and I know my enemy, I need not fear 100 battles. But if I don't know myself and I don't know my enemy, I will succumb and lose in every single battle. See, the problem is you have not understood these racist people. Now, not all of them are racist, but what you need to worry about are the racist people. That's your enemy. So your enemy is not white people. It's a certain type of white person. It's a racist white person. You needed to study your enemy and you didn't properly do this. You just kept putting it off and you just decided to dismiss their ways and dismiss how they are, and you did not properly study your enemy. This is not the way of Sun Tzu that teaches in The Art of War. You must know yourself and you must know your enemy. This is why they was beating you the whole time. And some of you are still in unbelief of how your enemy really is because it's so unbelievable. You still don't believe it, do you? See, if you was a soldier like you proclaim yourself to be, then you would realize, see, one thing about war is it has this surreal feeling to it, don't it? War has a surreal feeling. It's kind of surreal when you're in war, when you see war breaking out. A soldier that did real tours can tell you that. It's like, it's surreal when it's all playing out, ain't it? Mm-hmm. But you can't stop at the feeling of surrealness, if you will, and say, well, I just can't believe this. I can't believe all of this is happening right now. You just can't stop and say, well, man, I can't believe all of this is happening around me. You have to realize this is part of reality and keep advancing. And see, many of you did not do this when it came to Americans and racist white Americans. You didn't take in the war part, the unbelievable stuff that you just don't know why they're doing it. You didn't allow yourself to become the full soldier and take in the surreal things that the enemy was doing. This is why many of you are going to be shell shocked when you realize that a race war is still a great potential for a full blown physical warfare race war. You're going to be shell shocked and surprised that it's real. You know why? Because you're too busy watching ideals on TV that looks like we're all together in these movies. All you need to do is look at the news, the real news, and you'll see that we're not all together. You look at movies and commercials that paint ideals, but ideals that never become reality. Rich people will come together because they have money. The races only come together for three things: food, money, and sex. Oh yeah, we'll come together to have sex with each other. You know, you want to try out this, you want to try out that. You want to see how this tastes, you want to see how this smells. You want to see how an Asian woman smell? You want to see how a Mexican woman smell? A man will do this for, for sex. Food, you want to try different food, Chinese food. I don't want to eat soul food every day. I love my people, but I ain't gonna eat soul food every day. That's what you're gonna say. I ain't gonna eat soul food every day. I eat me some little Chinese food. Some of y'all eat Mexican food. So you have to go to the Chinese to eat Chinese food. You have to go to the Mexicans to eat authentic Mexican food. We come together for either sex, food, and money. When you go work at a job, you don't say, well, I want to go work for just black people. You don't care who's on the job. Just so it's not racist. As long as it's not racist, you don't care who you work for. So we come together for food, sex, and money. That's all you see on TV. What do you see on TV? Food, sex, and money. So when you look at money in the sense of people getting paid to be in these movies. So anytime you see all the things you see on TV, keep in mind that all ethnicities will come together for three things: food, sex, and money. Oh yeah, I go eat some Chinese food, but you don't like Chinese people, do you? You'll be surprised. People go over there and buy Chinese food, but then if they had to sit in the house with a Chinese person looking at them eat it, they'll look at you like, why are you here? I don't want no Chinese people in my house. But you eating Chinese food. Man, it's ghetto people like that. They'll eat Chinese food and talk about they don't want no Chinese people in their house. I'm just trying to show you. We come together for three things: food, sex, and money. Don't ever think that America is together because we're coming together because you see two people coming together having sex. Because you see two people coming together for a food order, smiling at each other for while they exchange money and for food. That don't mean we together. One's hungry, one wants the money. And then when we come together for money, obviously the object is money. And for the beginning of the time, we've always come together for money. And the white man has always been making us work his fields. And so if you work with the white man, do not be deceived to think he loves you and like you. You've been working his fields the whole time, and he been over you the whole time. And he was working you while you was in the field. Y'all was working together then, wasn't you? Did he love you and like you while you was working the fields? So the white man will work you and cannot love you or like you. If you live long enough as a black man, you don't work. And if you come from where I come from in the South, you don't work for a racist white man before. I have. Yes, I have. And guess what? The day I got the job, I was told that this man was racist. I can't make this up, man. I can't make this up. The day I got the job, the day I was hired, and I was being showed the ropes, so to speak. for the job, being taken through the job site. I was told while being taken through the job site that this man is racist. My boss went like this. Yeah, he about this. Meaning skin. He ain't say it out of his mouth, so I couldn't quote him. He's smart. He was smart. Because he didn't say words so I could quote him. Because I had worked for this boss before. I'm so credible as a worker. I usually can go back to my job. So I had went back to my boss, and he lived on the other side of town, and I needed a job. I stayed over there with this girl. I was living with this woman, and I needed a job, and my boss just so happened to be working on that side of town, and to my surprise, and he hired me. He already knew what kind of worker I was, and but I had to not just work for him. I had to also work for this white guy, this racist white dude. And when he hired me, he told me, "Yeah, that dude right there, he's about," meaning he's racist. And sure enough, I lost that job because of him, because of this racist white man. Okay, and so um, but see, with me, I usually prove these racist people wrong. Even him. This man would say, "Well, I know you can do this," and all this ain't racist white man. And but he was just talking behind my back. The girl told me like how he was talking in front of the other employees, talking behind my back and everything. He just had this thing against black people. You know what I'm saying? And so he would just sit back and talk on me and yap on me, like, you know what I'm saying, like that, man. So yeah, man, like I've worked for a racist person before. And when you young, if you do it while you're young, you don't even know half the times because you ain't paying attention. Because you're young. So you're not even paying attention to the racist insinuations and all the racist position and how people posed up racist. You can't even see it. Until you get a little older, you understand manhood, and you understand how a man that's not racist, how he carry himself, how he conduct himself with another man. You know what I'm saying? So a racist person treats you like you a child, a boy, or something like that, with no respect. That's the first sign, is a lack of respect. That's why as a black man, you should always be making sure you get respect, because that's the first thing a racist person is going to take from you, or try to take from you, is respect. That's why black people are so on respect, while you as black white people may not understand. It's a must. It's a must, because what usually it's usually going to be a trigger, you know what I'm saying, considering this country that doesn't show respect. Now, back to us tribing ourselves off. Back to tribing ourselves off as different tribes. So you got different tribes: Nigerians, Ethiopians, people from Sierra Leone, people from Ghana, right? These are all different tribes. When we came here, many of us, many of us were from West Africa, but not only West Africa. And you can't assume anything. You can't assume you know your tribe, or well, it was just over there by West Africa, so you figure you West African. But let me note this: it was a slave trade, which means your family could have been brought from hundreds of miles to that slave trade for whatever reason. Just so happened they were just trying to find it, or somebody was taking them there. Okay? You know what I mean? Someone was taking your family to this slave trade. And, you know, they could have came from anywhere. Something could have happened which you don't know in your particular bloodline, and your bloodline could have ended up in a West African slave trade. So you can't assume that. I'm glad I'm saying this because most people would try to give an educated assumption and say, well, I just figured because the slave trade was more on the west coast of Africa, that this was that I'm West African. Okay, that's a pretty decent educated guess or educated assumption, but you can't assume that. You can't be too sure, right? You can't be too sure. Okay, like for example, me, I got four different types of African. I got General West African, Sierra Leone, Maasai, and Nigerian. I got four different types of African in me. So you can't say I'm not African. I got four different types. Okay, so I'm four different types of African. Maybe that's why I'm bold. Maybe that's why I am the way I am. You know, I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but as you know, most Africans are very bold. Just in how they talk and how they carry themselves sometimes. You know, and I couldn't assume. Well, oh well, we're West African because we came from our ancestors came from the transatlantic slave trade, right? So because our parents came from the transatlantic slave trade, I figured that I'm West African, but you don't know. You cannot be sure, and you can't just think well my grandma said this. We all know as black people, one of the biggest problems is we always talking about we got Indian in our family. And I'm glad I'm saying this too. Because you'll come to find out that Indian ain't Indian. Yeah, we Blackfoot Indian. You come to find out, man, when you do a DNA, you ain't a bit of Blackfoot Indian than an Irishman. In fact, you probably got some Irish in you before you got Native American. Do not think that just because your grandmother, who you respect and revere, you're supposed to revere your grandmother, but she could be given folklore, or she could have been given educated guesses on what is in the bloodline from whatever they seen around them, and that wasn't really what it was. Like for example, we're my family is part South American. Now see, that's the surprise. I would have never guessed that. I would have never guessed I'm part South American. If you would have told me that, I would have been like, huh? South American? I'm part South American? Okay. But so I was so surprised about that. You know what I'm saying? So that's where we get the Native American look in our family. And so we were told that we were part Native American. That's what we thought. But we are a type of Indian, but it's South American Indian. It's not North American Indian. So what probably happened was the South Americans that interacted with my African ancestors, they thought they were Indians. They thought the South American were Native American Indians. And so they just assumed with what they saw around them that that's what they were. That's an Indian. Yeah, I baby done hooked up with an Indian, baby. Yeah, that's an Indian. But he was a South American. Or she was a South American. Yeah, he done got him an Indian woman, but she was South American. So that's probably how, like for example, in my family, that's how we thought that we had Native American in our family, and the truth was it was South American. That's what it was, and so the Africans that interacted with the ancestors of my bloodline that interacted with the South Americans, they thought they were Indians. You see what I'm saying? So that's like, see me, I didn't know I was part South American. I would how would I have know how could I have ever knew that? It's impossible for you to have it's something when you do your DNA test, you will find out when you see your full DNA, it was impossible. It's gonna be impossible for you to have known all that you truly are. There's no way you could have knew that. Specifically as African Americans, with all the things that happen, all the moving around, you don't know all the moving around that happened, which obviously means sex was involved. Okay, so with that happening, with your ancestors interacting with other tribes, moving around as African Americans, and your ancestors being moved around from the transatlantic slave trade to maybe a stop somewhere else, and then your bloodlines came from that and still got thrown in the slave trade. You don't know what happened. The best thing to say is you when with an African American is you really don't know what happened. You don't know what happened in your bloodlines. You don't know how your family was moved around. So if you just stop at the transatlantic slave trade, you gonna just think very simple mindedly that I'm just West African. That's probably what it is. That's what most of us are. Obviously, being that the slave trade was on the west shores and the west coast of Africa. Okay, but look at how much distance that is between here and America. You don't know what happened. You don't know what happened along the way. You don't know who your family interacted with once they got here. Can you definitely say what happened? You can't really say. You can't really say, can you? So so you will have surprises when you really go into your DNA, you will have surprises and you'll be so surprised. Well, I didn't know this, I didn't know that. Now, South American, I would have never guessed that. Asian, I would have kind of thought maybe because of me thinking about Native American. Most people say that's Asians traveled to North America. That's how some people tell the history. Is that the Asian ancestors traveled to North America to get what we call Native Americans, the Native American tribes. Okay, and they do kind of look Asian. When you really look at it for what it is, um, I can believe that. When you look at complexion, hair type, um, eyes, and everything, even complexions and everything, but how they tan, everything. But I just, I don't know. I would have never guessed. I would have never guessed I was straight out. I was a type of Asian. I don't think so. And I found out I was Filipino, and I didn't know that. And and South Asian too, which is Indian. So literally, I do have Indian in my family. Like, so I'm part Indian too, like from India, like South Asian. So literally, we do have Indian, like, but not Native American, but Indian in our family. And but see, that's another. The term Indian really, like, it shows you how the folklore passes down because Indian really was from the people from India, but the Native Americans look similar to them. So they just said, yeah, that's an Indian. But really, the Indians are from India. That's really that's what the Indian is. And some Native Americans don't like being called Indians. Now, see, you got to know certain culture. Some Native Americans do. Some come to accept it. You know what I'm saying? But some Native Americans, from my understanding, don't like being called an Indian because they are educated. They understand an Indian is from India. An Indian is from India, and I'm part South Asian, so I am part Indian. Like so so some Native Americans like being called natives. I'm native. You know what I'm saying? I'm native. Like so that's how I would talk around them. If you like, and you will rarely hear me call them Indians too, because I'm just sensitive to that. You'll never hear me call a Native American. That's why I say the Native American man, or I'll say the tribe. Cherokee. Whatever, Choctaw, or whatever it is. I'll say the actual tribe instead of calling them an Indian, because that was the ignorance of ancestors of the world. They seen the man that look a certain way. Oh, that's an Indian. And then it went on from that to black people seeing the other people and saying, what is an Indian, which was a Native American. Now it went two times down. Does that make sense? The white man thought that was an Indian from India. Now we're calling a Native American. We think that the South Americans are Indians, and we call and but they're Native American, they're South Americans, but we're calling them Native Americans and Indians. So now we're placing a term on a man that's two times handed down. Does that make sense? So particularly for my bloodline, my ancestors could have seen and said, that's an Indian that my family was interacting with to make us have South American blood, right? But it wasn't a Native American, and it was a South American, and he wasn't an Indian from India. He wasn't an Indian from India, and he wasn't a Native American from from America. He was neither one of those. He was neither one of the things that he was looked at as. So, you know, you get my point. So, but the tribes, like, if we had sectioned them off, we would have been more organized as Africans. We would have been more organized in war. We would have been more organized in harmony. Because what I believe is a lot of the chaos that's in the streets is because the vibrations are not matching totally in harmony. Because if the Nigerians are with the Nigerians, and then we branch out and then we associate with other tribes, it would be more understanding that this is not quite my people, but I'm interacting with them. And then when it doesn't work out, we can always gravitate back to Nigerians. But if you never identify yourselves by tribes, then you have chaos as far as vibrations. You have chaos as far as vibrations. Now, if you had tribes sectioned off, then you would have more harmony because because the vibrations would be more harmonic as one. There would be no chaos. In music, you have to have harmony. No pun intended. You have to have rhythm and unison. And then that's how you get music. Now, with tribes, if you have all the different tribes mix and match, and they never really come together, what happened is you have conflict in vibrations. And you may say, well, we're both black, but you're not both from the same tribe. So in Africa, if you're in Africa, if you're in Africa, they will tell you this even in Africa. What tribe are you from? You don't act like our tribe. What tribe are you from? Our tribe act like this. You don't act like our tribe. What tribe are you from? Oh, okay, that makes sense. You're like from this. Okay, now we understand you better because you seem like you're not from this tribe. See, we ignore that here in America. If you people just try to understand you for who you are, but if you look at other races of people, like for example, a perfect example, you can find Puerto Ricans that look like Mexicans, right or wrong, and you can find Mexicans that look like Puerto Ricans, right? But let's be real. There's a different vibration between a Puerto Rican and a Mexican, right? It's not the same vibration. No, it's not. It's not. I know that for a fact. I know that for a fact. Now, if you just like if you now let's just say the same thing happened in America that happened with the African Americans. The transatlantic slave trade, and you had, let's say you had Cubans, his Mexicans and Puerto Ricans, and they all got shuffled up. No one really knew because of the mixture with the white people and everybody else, and even the Native Americans. Because that's what happened to black people. They start having sex with, we start getting descendants from having sex with Europeans and having sex with Native Americans, right? So if Hispanics, like Mexicans, Cubans, and Puerto Ricans had started doing the same thing. And then by the time you get in the present day, and no one knows who they are, but you got Cubans, Puerto Ricans, and Mexicans living all together. Now you see what I'm saying? But no one knows by looking at each other, because we got white in us, we got Native American in us, and then we kind of look similar to each other, right? Because of that, because of the white DNA and the Native American DNA, that's what made it even more complicated, right? That made it even more complicated to really see who we were. Because, okay, maybe we could have said you look Nigerian or you from Ghana if you had not been mixed with white people, if you had not been mixed with uh, Native American, then we could see maybe more clearly what tribe you was from. That's what made it even more difficult. So imagine if, at face value, right? At face value. So just imagine if Cubans, Mexicans, and Puerto Ricans had went through the same experience in America, where they went through slavery, right? Beaten, everything, raped. They start having kids with white people. They start having kids with Native Americans. Now, about 4 or 5 generations later, and they still having sex with white people, still having sex with Native Americans, even more, and then they're having sex with other people who their families did the same thing, and they have kids. It's more and more difficult, and that's what happened with black people. It became more and more difficult to even know, because it kept happening from each side, from the male side, the female side. The more they went down the descendant line, they were on both sides. They were just interacting sexually with other ethnicities. So it made it more and more difficult with every passing generation, to the point where you couldn't look at somebody and say, "Well, you're Nigerian." You could how? How can you know? You can't even tell. That's what happened to African Americans. So imagine if that. So imagine if and keep in mind all those different vibrations that they got in them too. Now you're not only now your bloodline is not only Nigerian, it's European. Because I have English in me too. Now, as far as white people, I have English, where we get the English language. I'm literally part English. Now, everybody that's mixed with white, what we call white, from slavery is not English. Some are Irish. Like I was staying with a person that was not English at all. He was not English at all. He was Irish. That was the white person that was in him. So he had no English. And that's another miseducation that happens. Is we think, well, because the Americans came here from England, that we just assume that everyone's at least at minimum, most black people have English in them. That's not true. That's why you have to go and search for yourself to see if your bloodline has all of those things. Your family may have migrated here without any of those things happening. Like for example, Oprah Winfrey, her family is not a descendant of slavery. No, she said it on public TV, national TV. Her bloodlines did not come from slavery. So her bloodlines migrated here from Africa without slavery. And some would say that's why she's so successful is because she didn't have the spiritual bondage of slavery on her life. Because it's spiritual. It's a curse. And if you see and it gets deep. That's why a lot of us can't get free. And you ever notice, like, when people get money, something tragic happens in their life because of the bondages of some would say the bondages of slavery and poverty and the captivity of it, and it doesn't want to let you go, like a curse, literally. And there were people that cursed us, and we know obviously it was many of the Europeans. They were cursing us into slavery. Does that make sense? They were cursing us into it. Like a curse, like a witch, like you could say, if you think of it in the sense of witchcraft, they were cursing us into it. You see how messed up that is, right? And that's why now you get it. That's the best way to say it. And that's why a lot of people can't get nothing, because your bloodlines were cursed into slavery. Boy, that's good right there. Woo! We were cursed into it. That's why every time we try to get some, here comes somebody. Here comes something. Because your bloodlines were cursed into it. And you think you broke it. But you know that, look at the stuff that's going on. Look at the controversy. And because your bloodline had a curse on it. So now you got to fight through all of that. You got to fight what your bloodlines were cursed into. Oprah Winfrey didn't have to go through that because her bloodlines was not cursed into slavery. So she cried on national TV. You can go look it up. She cried because she found out that she was not a descendant of slavery. So many of you didn't know this. That's what I'm saying. You can't assume anything. She went her whole life in doing the Oprah Winfrey Show, being a newscaster before that. I know a little bit of history. She was in Chicago, with her show and everything. And and my mom used to love watching Oprah Winfrey. You know what I'm saying? Just like the rest of the women in the 90s, And so I'm very aware of Oprah Winfrey, But yeah, some would say that's why she is so successful, because her bloodlines wasn't cursed into slavery. Now you would think that because she's here and she did The Color Purple, everybody remember her from The Color Purple at first. Us as kids probably say, that's the woman from The Color Purple. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, like we would probably think that's a black woman, especially when she played in The Color Purple. You couldn't tell us nothing. She wasn't a descendant of slavery, but she wasn't. And some would say that's why she's successful. And I'm just being real. Like spiritual people will tell you that. Spiritual people, they'll tell you that. That's why she's successful, because her bloodlines wasn't cursed into slavery. You know what I'm saying? And so, don't assume. She's the perfect example of why you don't assume, because many of you, especially old school, well, anybody, really. You never know. But Oprah Winfrey is not a descendant of slavery. You could think that your bloodlines went through slavery and it didn't. You could think, well, my ancestors, you sitting up telling speeches and everything, and my ancestors was bought over here on the transatlantic slave trade, and you find out they wasn't. Then so that means all them poems you did, all that dancing around you did, trying to show the essence of what your ancestors went through, and you acting it out in dance, in drama. Come to find out, come to find out later, it never happened. Your families never went through the slave trade. And it doesn't mean that you are any less African, because guess what? You still are faced with the African American experience in America, where you're mistreated. So that relation, even if you didn't go, even if your bloodlines didn't go through it, you still suffering here as an African American. So if your bloodlines didn't suffer, you aren't you? See what I'm saying? If they didn't suffer in slavery, you kind of going through your own slavery, ain't you? Well, yeah. In other words, you kind of going through your own oppression being here in America as a black person, right? So we still identify with the African American experience in that way, or being African American in that way. We still have that similar experience. This has to be all understood, guys. But see, it changes things when you realize that your bloodlines didn't go through that, and you should take advantage of that. If you don't got no curse, if your bloodlines were not cursed into slavery, why act like it was? You don't have that curse. You don't have that curse to fight through, like the rest of us. Then why act like it? Like I'm not saying she did, but I'm saying why be fake and act like that's what happened? You're free. You don't have these bondages and these satanic spirits fighting against your bloodline. That's what I'm saying. And you got people that will sit up and fake it, like in front, like yeah. My family was on the trade, and you know what I'm saying, they fronting, man. You know what I'm saying? And it didn't happen. See, I'm from North Carolina, so anybody that's educated, on North Carolina know that's where it happened. That's where it was all happening. And the more I traveled, the more I realized that. You know what I'm saying? You kind of, in a weird way, you kind of put everything in geographics, especially what happened with slavery. You put all those in the proper geographics. So I realized with all my travels and just placing everything in America as it is, because until you travel, you can't really place everything. Does that make sense? The more I traveled, the more I placed everything and everybody. So with North Carolina, South Carolina, that's where slavery was. In fact, John Ward, who owned the most slaves, was from the Carolinas, not Georgia, not Mississippi. Now you would think, well, the slave owner that owns the most slaves, where would he be? If I had to pick, I would say something like Mississippi or Louisiana, somewhere down in there, Alabama. I probably would say maybe Mississippi or something like that. You know, that sounds about right. But we basing that on racist culture and how it is down there. You know what I'm saying? We basing that basically on racist culture. It's no way you could have possibly have known where. Well, I mean, you can kind of have an idea where the most slaves were, but you would be so surprised to find out that John Ward, that was his name. He owned the most slaves in um he was from the Carolinas, from the South Carolina, I think. I'm looking it up now. I hate to even put it in my phone. I'll tell you the truth. John Ward, who owned the most slaves. But we need to know. You know, some people don't know who this person is. This man owned the most slaves. Joshua John Ward, South Carolina, like I thought. That was his name, Joshua John Ward of Georgetown County, South Carolina, is known as the largest American slaveholder, dubbed the King of the Rice Planters. Wow. I didn't even know that part. I didn't know he had some name, the King of the Rice Planters. Brook Green Plantation, Georgetown County, South Carolina. That's the name of the plantation. Brook Green Plantation, Georgetown County, South Carolina. In 1850, he held 1,092 slaves. Ward was the largest slaveholder in the United States before his death in 1853. So Joshua John Ward was like I told you, I called him John Ward, which was his middle name. He owned the most slaves, and in America. Now this was in South Carolina. I'm from the Carolinas, so that's why we are more. That's why I tell people who are Hispanic and Latino, if you don't differentiate um, what kind of black, you don't know how to place things either, and even some black people don't know how to place things. You may just be stepping on somebody that's from one of the most oppressed places as far as slavery. You might be stepping on a black person that came from where all of that was going on, and you don't know no better. You don't know what you're doing, and you don't know how to differentiate things, and so and your street politics and the things you talking about is irrelevant. No one cares. What people care about is that you're stepping on somebody from a place that had the most oppression, the most racism. And that's all they care about. That's why I don't have no problems with real black people. I got problem with sellouts and suckers and people from the suburbs. I don't have nobody trying me and know I'm from North Carolina. Because it's an understanding of where that is in America. Now you see what I'm saying? People that come and play in my life and know I'm from North Carolina and still play games, you're ignorant. That's all it is. You're an ignorant person. You're ignorant of history, first of all, and you're ignorant of your people. It's what it is. That's why if you notice, what most people don't pay attention to with these wars that's going on with me, what you don't pay attention to is that real black people, big goons and big thugs, they don't got no problem with me, do they? You know why? Because they realize where I come from. That's so credible. Listen, that is so credible to black people. They fall back. Now, I don't know about Mexico, but I'm pretty sure there's a part of Mexico that is held sacred to Mexicans, right? I'm pretty sure. I don't know what that place is. You know what that place is. I don't, right? Because I'm ignorant of that. You know what that is, right? So, whatever that place is in Mexico that you esteem as most sacred to your people. Now, imagine me being a black man playing with somebody from that place. You're going to feel some type of way, right? You're going to feel some type of way. Whatever place that is. I don't know where that is in Mexico. You know, but let's just look it up. The place, the city in the state in Mexico that is most revered. Let's put revered. Okay, what is the most cultural state in Mexico? The state of Alzaka. Am I saying that right? Alzaka? 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 So, so they're saying Osaka is Michoan. Am I saying that right? But those the two I see that comes up. Which, and now imagine me playing with somebody from those places. Mikok, Mikokin, or Osaka. Okay, of those two places, and I'm probably butchering those names, but forgive me on that. But of those two places, right? Now imagine me disrespecting somebody from that place. You're gonna feel some type of way. Like, but nah, that person's from there. Like, nah, man, we can't have nobody disrespecting the person from there. It's the same thing. It's like somebody from North Carolina to black people cannot be disrespected. Now you understand. And I don't care what these white people telling you. I don't care what these black people that do anything for money are telling you. We call them tricks, sellouts, whatever. We not listen. I ain't talking about them. We talk about black people who don't need no money from nobody, right? They got their own money, so they ain't gotta sell out because they got their own money, right? They ain't playing around nobody that's from North Carolina. They don't feel no need to. It's just too disgraceful to their culture and where they come from. Now you see what I'm saying? It's like slapping the ancestors from playing where I'm come from, right? That's what it's like. It's like slapping the ancestors. Because your ancestors, most of these New Yorkers, their ancestors come from North Carolina. That's why I'm the ace of spades to handle this business. Because I ain't gonna have no problems with no real black people. All only people I have problems from this, I'm telling you, so you know who to watch out for. The only people I have problems from is roaches, rats, and suckers that would do anything for money. Real people, real black people that already got their own, they don't need nothing from nobody. They don't need nothing from Freemasons. They don't need nothing from the Illuminati. They don't need nothing from the government. They don't need no handouts, right? They're not playing with people from North Carolina or South Carolina. They're not going to, specifically those two places. Because like I said, while you might have people Georgia saying they the South, um, Florida saying they the South, all these other places saying they the South, right? The most slaves was in the Carolinas, where I'm from. The most slaves were held right where I grew up, in the area where I grew up. That's where the most slaves were at. In my city, there is still a plantation that's there that people can visit, which I find disrespectful. I think it's called White Oak Plantation, and it's in Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm looking it up right now. You know what I'm saying? So that's why, yep, White Oak Plantation, also known as the William Johnson House, is a historic plantation house located near Charlotte, Mecklenburg County, North Carolina. So it's like a plantation right in my city. Need I say more? Is there any plantations in Brooklyn? Is there any plantations in Harlem? Is there any plantations in? I'm just being 100. All these places that say they black, is there any plantations there that's still there? They're not, is it? That's what I'm talking about, buddy. This plantation is still there, bro, in Charlotte. Like, look, this is how it looks, man. Now you need to see this, bro, because see, this is what help you understand the geographics. Because people say it's not where you're from, it's where you at. Where you in America. Let's take that a step further. This is the plantation. That's how it looks in Charlotte, where I'm from. Okay, that's the plantation. Okay, and so that's my city, not my just my state. Now, because remember, I told you the most slaves were held in South Carolina, Georgetown County, right? So, um, you know, this plantation is in my city in North Carolina. This is how much it is in the Carolinas. Because most people, like I said, when you watch these movies, you watch Mississippi Burning, all them other movies, you gonna think that's where all the worst slavery went on. No, the most went on in the Carolinas. That's the way the most of it happened. So all that stuff that you see on TV, all that stuff that you see projected as far as the slavery and all of that stuff, now you see why God didn't play no games. Because God knows the bloodlines I come from. Like for me, my grandmother told me that the slave master raped my grandmother. See, that's the real story. That's why I have a different kind of fury than you might have. Because my bloodline has the white man in it that raped my grandmother. So the Europeans raped my bloodline. You understand? And so if that's the history, that's what my grandmother told me. Now my grandmother had my dad. She was his last son. He was her last son, right? So she had him in her older years. My grandmother was born in 1917. 17 more years, she would have been in the 1800s. Her mother obviously was born in the 1800s. So I had the pleasure of having someone that old. Now you see what I'm saying? This is why the information was credible. Because her mother, my grandmother, not my great grandmother. See, most people in my family, that was their great grandmother. This was my grandmother, right? Because that was my dad was her last son. So does that make sense how that turned out? Okay. So my grandmother told me a story that she probably didn't tell the other kids. You know, that my grandmother was raped by the slave master, which was probably obviously handed down to her from her mother. And so this is why I know for a fact that my family was in slavery. Okay. So, and that's probably why I feel a little different than you may feel about white people. Why you might think I side with them, you know what I'm saying, at one point, but at another point, you know, they rape my rape my bloodline. Now everybody can't say that. You can't say a white person raped your family and made babies. Okay, that's what happened in my bloodline. So you could feel the need to avenge your bloodline, and you don't care about what these rappers talking about. You don't care what these singers. You don't care about what nobody talking about. You looking at your family. You looking at what your family went through, which every black person can't share that experience with you. And this is where it gets a little more tricky because a lot of people don't know the stuff that happened to their bloodlines. I do. You see the difference? You see the difference, don't you? I know what happened to my bloodline. I know something very significant that happened to my bloodline, where one of these white slave masters raped one of my grandmothers. You see what I'm saying? So that makes it a little personal to me, don't you think? I think it does. I think it makes it a little more personal to me, and you may not care nothing about it. And so see, now you see why I'm on it like I'm on it. You know what I'm saying? See, I don't tell these stories all the time because they're heavy stories. You know what I'm saying? It's heavy history. You know what I'm saying? And so I don't tell it all the time. You know what I'm saying? But God knows all of that. God knows that that's all. That's what my bloodline went through. All my blood, they know. God knows all my bloodline went through. You know what I'm saying? And so, with your family may have not went through that. You might have been black people that went through slavery, and your family just worked through the fields, and y'all just eventually got out. My family went through being raped. The worst thing that can happen to a woman. That's the worst thing that can happen to a woman. Okay, you got physical abuse, but the worst thing that can happen to a woman is rape, right? Imagine somebody going through that. A woman going through that. That's the worst thing a woman can go through, right? What's worse, physical beatings or rape? That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm trying to show you. Okay? And then, you got people around me, like the last woman I was with, she talking about, I wish somebody raped me. This last woman I was with, she texted that on my phone. She hopes somebody rapes her. That's a woman's worst nightmare. You see what I went through? Now, and that'll be the same person that cry about physical abuse. But the worst thing that can happen to a woman is rape, right? That's worse. That's a woman's absolute number one worst nightmare. And that's what my bloodline went through. My bloodline went through rape. My grandmother went through rape. You know what I'm saying? And and this is facts. This is what now that comes full circle to Hispanics and Latinos understanding the difference between black people that have family from where I come from, that they family went through rape from the slave masters, and other people's families didn't go through that. That you're around, these black people that you're around, they family might have not didn't went through that. Now you understand the difference. And that's why I don't have, like I told you, if you pay attention to the jungle, the real jungle, you don't see no lions, no African lions really treading on my ground, do you? You know why? Listen, some people don't know how to pay attention to the jungle. And I got to do a video on that. Knowing how to pay attention to the jungle. Do you see any real soldiers, real African soldiers going up and down like they won't smoke with me? You don't see that, do you? You know why? Because they realize where I come from. They already know. They already know without me telling this story about my grandmother being raped by the slave master. They already know the oppression where I come from. You know? And so when you trample on that, you get violated yourself, man. No one cares. No one cares because you didn't acknowledge history and you don't really realize where you at like a migrant. A migrant won't realize that. That's what separates migrants from established Hispanic and Latinos here. You will care when you get the karma. You will care when you see you've already gotten the karma. It is considered when the bloodline and the man comes from a bloodline that has was connected to slavery. That is considered. And you still, like I said, you don't have nothing on this man, but that he fights back like he should, like a man should. That's all you got on me. All you got on me is I fight back. That's it. If whatever situation you looking at, all you looking at is I fight back. Even the woman being here that might be crying about somebody putting hands on her, man, she put hands on me first. Scarred my face and was making jokes about how she scarred my face. Saying, well, I scarred your face. This woman scarred my forehead, punched me in my stomach before I ever did anything to her. Those two things. Spitting on somebody is one thing. That's not physical. Okay? Punching somebody in their stomach can trigger an abusive person. I didn't hit him when she did that. Throwing keys with a big old thing of keys, which could have blinded me, scarred my forehead. That could have scarred my eyes. It was right above my forehead. Those two things happened before I even did anything to her physically. That's why she can't. That's why she can't stop calling me and playing around me. No, I just need you to know that, man, because you know people paint these narratives, and see, you live in a time where people understand that word narrative. And if you walking around here not understanding people painting narratives to paint their point of view or to assassinate somebody's character, then you walk around here okey doke, stupid. You can tell how I carry myself. I ain't going to jail for nobody. That's my thing. I mean, I'm not going to jail for nobody. I'm just saying. So when it comes to playing with me for the Hispanic and Latino community, that's what you need to know, big baby. I come from the land of slavery. It's no nice the way to put it. This whole land was in slavery. New York was in slavery. New York didn't have slavery up here. This is where people ran to get away from slavery. That's what I'm saying. People don't pay attention. They think they know everything. They think they know what they know. And so you could be told what you want to be told. You can be told what you want to be told. But see where another level of understanding comes is when people understand that you have to prove what you heard. If you couldn't prove it, I'm sorry to tell you. The real world we live in, not the cartoon world, the real world we live in, it's not good enough to just talk about something. You got to prove it. And if you can't prove it, you don't have the luxury of playing with somebody like it's a cartoon. And that's that. And that's why I fought you the way I did. That's why I smashed the way I did. Okay? And that's what it is. Now, so when we talk about race, don't you see, I'm in the most potent, ironically, while everybody acting like they black this, black that, Hispanic this, Latino that. I'm in the most sensitive, I come from the most sensitive racial place there is. That's why I took my time and I didn't even have to, you know what I'm saying? I didn't care what I said when I said what I said because I knew it wasn't coming from the same place you thought it was. That's what you should have paid attention to. Okay. Well, why would he be talking about like that if it was racist? Makes sense. It's certain things that intelligent people just understand. Okay. Okay. Like I say, some people hit below the belt and it's not racist. Hitting below the belt is not racist. And if you're not savvy with being in this country, with all the words we throw around, you won't understand somebody hitting below the belt, but they're not racist. That's what I'm saying. That's why I always say this, and it always proves true. Many of you should not be a committee over us because you're not educated enough. You got credibility out here with these other people. You got respect out here with people that don't matter to the overall international community. You got respect with people that we don't acknowledge, like the Freemasons and Illuminati. I don't acknowledge them. You know what I'm saying? I don't acknowledge them. Now, see, me as a kid, I went to Martin Luther King Jr.'s house as a kid. I went to Martin Luther King Jr.'s house as a kid. Now, many of you black people, you ain't never been to Martin Luther King Jr.'s house down in Atlanta, Georgia. You ain't never been to the Underground Railroad Mall down in Atlanta. But you blacker than me. But I've been to Martin Luther King Jr.'s house. That's what I'm saying. My grandmother, that shows you what type of woman she was. She made sure Even though she didn't know he was a Freemason and what all that is and all of that, she just looked at Martin Luther King Jr. as a man that fought for black people. But that kind of shows you what my family was about, just in case you thought I was raised racist or raised in a way that we thought we were better than other black people. I wasn't raised like that. I was raised to understand history. Like I said, my grandmother, one of her mothers was raped in slavery. That's what family I come from. You know what I'm saying? And that's why you have to listen to me and not other bitter people, crazy people that went crazy in my city. Okay, you got to listen to me. Okay, because I'm the only one making sense like I am. You don't listen to anyone else about me. You listen to me about me. Okay, that would make sense, right? Yeah, it would make sense to listen to me about me, right? Yeah. Because if you was man enough or woman enough, you would have asked me about me. Okay? And you had no one in your country, man enough or woman enough, to ask me about me. You asked everyone else about me. Now think about that. I live with me. I've existed with me this whole time. You needed to talk to me. You wasn't man enough to do that, right? That's why we don't respect you. That's why I don't respect you. Because I would have stepped to you and told you, yo, man, I heard this, that, and the third. I just want to give you heads up. This is what's been going on and said about you around here. Okay, thank you for looking out on that. See, where I come from, you don't keep your friends in the dark. If you know what's going on and you don't tell me, I don't consider you a friend. And you shouldn't consider me a friend because I'm not going to listen. I'm not going to give you the full friendship, the full extended hand. I'm not going to do that. Because once I realize what's going on, I'm going to realize I'm smart enough to realize that you knew what was going on too. Obviously, how? How you ain't know? With all this going on, you ain't know nothing. Come on, man. Come on, man. You wanted to try to see things for yourself, and but you can't say at some point when you've seen enough evidence that you really were on my side if you didn't tell me what it was. That's how I take it. Now that's respect where I come from. So this is why your country is in trouble. Okay. Now, like I said, if black people had came together as tribes, then we would have had more harmony. We would have been more organized. We would have got more done and everything. What I'm gonna talk about next is how um, African Americans, black people, we didn't um, when our enemies got tenderhearted, we stopped beating them. You cannot stop beating your enemy when they're tenderhearted. This is what I'm learning in this war that I'm fighting. I don't care if they're tenderhearted. I don't care if they're feeling sad or blue. I don't care. Now you see, because see, my family came from that. Now you see why my warfare is so destructive. Because I already seen where the Americans raped my family. From back in the ancient times, and see, in other times, generations held grudges against the whole governments and communities because of the same things. If you found out that your grandparents was raped by the Americans, you could choose in ancient times in other places, you could choose to hold a grudge and fight them and avenge your family. You see what I'm saying? You could in today that might be crazy to you because you're too busy, you're too interwoven with the Americans. You're too interwoven with the Americans to see it my way. But if not for you, I could avenge for my family. And you could tell me not to feel that way, but that's just not good enough to a grown man, is it? You know what I'm saying? So you can't speak for me. I can't speak for you. You have to stand on your own, cousin. And I can't tell you, you know, how to feel, and you can't tell me how to feel. And that's just how it is. That's the world we live in. So, like I said, if we would have been sectioned off in tribes, things would have been way more organized. And I will say this: I don't take anything off of people that are black in this country that don't know what tribe they from. Me, I'm from North Carolina, as you know. I know what tribe I come from, right? I know I can tell you what is my bloodlines. Now you got people that claim to be black and love it, but you don't know what bloodlines you come from. You don't know where you come from. Me and you, let me tell you something. Wherever you may come from, you may come from Cali, you may come from New York, you may come from wherever, Florida. Me and you are on two different levels. You don't even know your bloodlines. I know my bloodlines. I know my bloodlines. You don't know your bloodlines. So you're a mystery can. You're a mystery can. A can with no label. I know my bloodlines. So 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 how can I ever be a sucker? How can I ever be lame? You feel me? It's certain things like that people value. You know what I'm saying? I touch buttons on things that people value a lot. If you listen to me. And people that's going around playing with people that know their bloodlines, but you don't even know what tribe you from. You say you love black people, but you don't even know what tribe you from. You love the culture, which I don't have to have anything to do with it. I don't have to have anything to do with it. You love the culture. If you love black people, if you love being black, you will first know what tribe you came from. You could spend less than $100 and know everything about your bloodlines. It's important for the person that talks about they love being black to know what type of tribe they come from. When you think you spend money on everything else, but you can't spend money to tell you what tribe you come from. I don't believe a person like that because a man will spend money on the things that's important to him. If it was important